The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of M.A.P.S Media or its affiliates. This content is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice, political endorsements, or the official stance of any organization mentioned. Basically, we talk shit. You listen, and M.A.P.S Media stays drama-free. And this podcast is not for children, because we cut.
Maryland, the great state of Maryland. Blue Crabs, Baltimore Ravens, and our vote. We're serious about all three things around here. And the Ravens are rebuilding after last season, and we're not going to talk about it. The Crabs aren't cheap, and we're not going to talk about that today. And our voting rights, we take that very serious around these parts.
And today, we have a guest, the executive director of the Maryland Democrats, to help us break it all down.
Yo, we stepping up now, feeling so proud. Got that rhythm in our soul, let's get this vote. Nothing but hope. Every single person, yeah, we're speaking out. Yeah, we're here to move, let's go, let's groove. We vote too.
We have opinions, and we're not shy about it. So understand, when I tell you what is happening to voting rights in this country right now, I need you to receive it with that same big Maryland energy, because this should make you kind of mad, where you put on your shoes and go get into some good trouble. Here's where we are right now. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, which people literally bled for on a bridge in Selma on a Tuesday because they believed that this country could actually be what it claimed to be. It had a section, Section 2, which said plainly, you cannot draw maps designed to drown out black votes. You cannot engineer elections so that certain communities don't have a real voice. And if you do that, we will take you to court and you will lose. That was the law. That was the protection. That was the receipt. And on April 29th of this year, 6 Supreme Court justices looked at that receipt and said, it's expired. Louisiana versus Calais, 6-3. Here is what happened in plain English, because the legal version is designed to make you kind of glaze over it. And that is not an accident either.
Is that it's very, very difficult now for plaintiffs to bring a claim under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act for a map that makes it harder for racial minorities to win elections and to elect a candidate of their choice. The evidentiary burden is so high, but sort of the secondary takeaway is that the court is now really elevated partisan gerrymandering. You know, in 2019, in Rucho versus Common Cause, the court said, well, we're not condoning partisan gerrymandering. We're just saying we can't get involved, and the courts are not going to be involved. Now I think the court's condoning it.
Louisiana was told by a federal court that their congressional maps violated the Voting Rights Act, that it was deliberately designed to dilute black votes. They were ordered to fix it. They drew a new map that included a second majority black district.
And then a group of white voters sued
And said that that map was a problem. That drawing a district to include the very black people in that state was unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court said, sure. Justices Keegan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented hard. Justice Keegan said, this ruling makes Section 2 so impossible to use that it might as well not exist, which is a very polite way of saying that they just took the teeth out of a law and handed it back to us with a gummy smile. And this wasn't the first warning sign. Alabama tried to show us exactly where this was going. 2 years ago, the Supreme Court ruled in Allen versus Milligan that Alabama's congressional maps violated the Voting Rights Act. Deja vu. Alabama is 27% black. They had one majority black district. The court said, draw a second one. And you were wrong. You need to fix it. Alabama looked at that ruling and said, And they drew a map almost identical to the one that was broken. The Supreme Court said, "You are wrong. Fix it." And Alabama said, "No, thank you." And now, with Calais, states across the South are looking at what Alabama did, and they are absolutely taking notes. The day after Calais ruling came down, more than 50 of the most prominent Black leaders went into strategy mode. Labor leaders, civil rights executives, elected officials, organizers, 100 more on Zoom because they couldn't get there fast enough. The invitation said in all caps, "Black voting and political power is under attack." The subject line, no softening, no pleasantries, just all caps. We have a problem. Now, here's where Maryland comes back into this. While all of this is happening at the federal level, Maryland did something. Maryland became the 10th state in the country to pass its own state-level Voting Rights Act, which means that they're not waiting around for the Supreme Court to get its act together after gutting federal protections. Maryland built its own firewall, and they said, "We got this. We are going to protect our voters ourselves." That is not small, and that matters. And there are people here doing the work that make sure that protection means something. They're knocking on doors, they're running voter registration drives, they're pushing back on misinformation that you hear every single day. They're educating people on what's on their ballot. They're making sure that when November comes, and it is coming fast, that Maryland shows up big. Because the midterms are not abstract. All 188 seats in the Maryland General Assembly are on the ballot. Wes Moore is running for re-election. Congressional seats right here in this state could determine who controls Washington. I say it every episode. Your vote matters. And I don't mean that in a friendly, bumper sticker, everybody gets a trophy kind of way. I mean it in somebody is working really fucking hard to make sure that you either cannot use your vote, you don't understand how to use your vote, or you are too scared to use your vote kind of way. Don't believe me? Let's go through the receipts.
4 years you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
January 6 pardons. The Trump administration pardoned every January 6 defendant. The people who physically attacked the Capitol to overturn an election result, they were pardoned. Oh, on day one. DOJ raids Fulton County. The DOJ raided Fulton County facilities in Fulton County, Georgia. They walked in and they seized ballots from the 2020 election in 2025. Because apparently we're still doing this. And voter data grabs, oh yes. This administration is trying to force states to hand over sensitive voter data. Your name, your address, your registration information. And states said no, but this administration tried anyway. The DOJ Civil Rights Division got gutted. You heard me, yes. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, the part of the government whose entire job was to protect your right to vote. Gutted, hollowed out. And they paired that with the voting section being gone. That is supposed to investigate discrimination at the polls. Now they want ICE at the polls. And apparently people are calling openly for ICE agents to surround polling places in blue states on election day.
Right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country.
Voter integrity. This is not a coincidence. This is not chaos. I want you to know this is a strategy. Because here's the thing about power. The people who have it will do almost anything to keep it. And the fastest way to keep it is to make sure that people like you cannot get to the ballot box. That is why your vote matters. Not because of a slogan, Because somebody looked at what happens when you vote and decided to build an entire operation around stopping you from voting. So yes, Maryland, fighting back is not just a nice to have right now, it is necessary. And speaking of fighting back, the Maryland Dems, they're hosting a fight back and win gala on June 27th. President Biden, is keynoting. And the primary is coming up fast. And the people doing the work, the real, unglamorous, on-the-ground work, are exactly the people I want to talk to. Which brings me to my guest today, Karen Darks, who is the executive director of the Maryland Democratic Party. And she did not come up as a politician. No, she came up as a fundraiser, which means she has spent her career in the rooms where actual decisions get made. Not by giving speeches, by making sure that the right people have the resources to win. She raised over $40 million for candidates including the Honorable Elijah Cummings, Amy Klobuchar, and Lucy McBath. She is a Morgan State grad, go Bears, and she is now running a state party operation at a time which genuinely might be one of the most consequential midterm elections of our lifetime. Because if there's one thing this show is about, it is we vote too, and we are not stopping. Karen Darks, welcome to We Vote Too.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to first start because a lot of people don't actually know what it is that you guys do. So they may conflate when they see, okay, the Maryland Democratic Party, and then that you guys are actually the Democrats that are sitting in those seats. So
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about it. What is your actual job? What is the role of your organization, and what do you guys actually do?
That's a very good question. So the Maryland Democratic Party is a subsidiary of the National Democratic Party. So just like any other national organization, there's the national organization and there's the state level of that organization, and then there are local chapters. So we have county committees. So in Maryland, we have 23 counties and the city of Baltimore, and each of them have their own Democratic Party infrastructure in there as well. And the sole goal of the main priority of the Democratic Party nationally, statewide, and locally is to get Democrats elected to office. That is our job. We are on, I say this a lot. In politics, there's two sides on the fence here, right? There's the people who work to get politicians elected, and then there are the people that once they get elected handle all of the policy and the work that is done as an elected official. Our job, I've used a lot of sports analogies, but our job is to get the ball to the finish line, get us to that point, and then we turn it right over to our teammates who actually handle the policy, the legislate, all of that. We both make each one look good, right? Our job is to make each one look good, right? Because we'll get them elected. Obviously, that's great. And then they get to go do what they need to do in elected office. And if and when they do a great job in elected office, it makes it just easier for us to get them reelected or get them elected to the next office. And that is what the Maryland Democratic Party's sole role is to get Democrats elected to office.
That brings up voting, because in order to get people elected, people have to vote. And one of the things that you're dealing with now, you are not even just in Maryland, just nationwide. It has been a very hard system. We're watching the system for voting rights be dismantled in front of our very eyes. So right now, what are you seeing that is raising your red flags, that is saying, wait, this is not normal and we cannot let this stand, as someone who actually helps to get people elected?
From the Maryland Democratic Party standpoint, shout out to my incredible team and consultants that we have at the state party. We've looked at the data after 2024 And we noticed that there was a huge shift in people who were registered as Democrats in our state to unaffiliated voters. Maryland's proximity to Washington, D.C. makes it that our electorate is very in tune with what's going on nationally, and we get picked up in a lot of national trends. And talking to a lot of my colleagues around the country, they are able to focus in on local things in a way that Maryland, frankly, is not. In particular, with the Trump administration's direct attack on federal workers, it's just very difficult for Marylanders to focus solely on Maryland. So when we noticed that a lot of people shifted from Democrat to unaffiliated, we said, this is a huge problem. It's a problem because in a state like Maryland, where we are very Democratic, we traditionally don't need to run persuasion campaigns, right? We're really about turnout, right? Turn the Democrats that we have. But when we look at the numbers, we're losing Democrats, right? The further and further they are from that time that they switched their party registration, the harder and harder it will be for us to bring them back to our side. So if somebody switched their registration literally November 10th of 2024, right, we are more likely to be able to have a conversation with them and maybe say, hey, come back over, versus if they switch it in 24 and then we don't have a conversation with them again until 28, 30, whatever, then they're set in their ways by then, right? So the Maryland Democratic Party, we took this data and we put our heads together on how we're going to bring these people back. And we just wrapped up our day of action, which was on May 30th. But what we did is we looked at this data and we sent mail out to everybody, almost 60,000 people who went from Democrat to unaffiliated. And we said, hey, in a state like Maryland, where we have all of these primary elections happening on just about every corner of the state, did you realize that we have closed primaries and you can't participate in a party primary election if you are an unaffiliated voter? There are people who run Democratic clubs, who are very active politically, who did not even realize that if you are unaffiliated, you cannot vote in the primaries. So people are getting hit with ads and text messages and seeing all the signs and getting lit dropped on them and have strong opinions about these primaries and can't wait to pick their next leader. But they didn't realize that they can't vote in the primary if they're not Democrats. So we did that. We also were intentional about looking at our big Democratic hub counties like Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Prince George's, Montgomery, Howard, Anne Arundel, and even Frederick County. And we charged our central committees with doing this day of action and knocking doors, right? So chasing that mail that we had and getting on doors and having conversations with people about coming back to the Democratic Party. Things that we learned in that process was there were returning felons that didn't even realize that they could vote again and that they were unaffiliated.
There's another piece there when you're saying people go unaffiliated. Do you think, because Maryland is a blue state, let's just be honest, like it's a blue state. But some people will say, or some pushback from voters would say, that Maryland's been a blue state. Why should I keep showing up?
That's a good point. I think that something that we're focused in on is educating, right? And providing resources so people actually know what the Democrats are doing, right? That's another part of our job, right? I think my digital director is listening in right now, but a big part of her job is amplifying the work that our Democrats are doing, right? So from Westmore all the way down to the Democratic dog catcher and jurisdiction, right? Is to make sure that everybody knows that the Democrats are delivering for them, right? So going back to the former felon that I talked about, right? Educating him on the fact that if it weren't for Democrats in the General Assembly, he would not be able to vote again because a bill just passed. A bill literally just passed this session that would allow for him to vote again, right? Between our governor and our General Assembly, we're providing those things. And I think going back to what I was saying before is we get swept up in the national trends. So the frustrations of Washington, D.C. spill it over into Maryland. And a part of our job is making sure that the electorate understands this is in our control. That's not in our control. Our governor is providing this because they're not providing that. And thank God that we have a stopgap in our Democratic attorney general, who is suing the crap out of the Trump administration, along with the other Democratic attorney generals across the state, and providing platforms and opportunities for them to speak and get that message out there. Even our comptroller, we have Democrats up and down who are that first line of defense for what is coming from the Trump administration and in between. So we have platforms. We started our own podcast, Burn the Talking Points. It's a vidcast where we highlight these elected officials and what they're doing. We just sat down with Janelle Wilkins, who was one of the sponsors of that bill that allowed felons to be able to vote. And we've had the governor on, we've had the attorney general on, we've had a number of our congressional delegation and county executives and people who are running for state delegate in different offices. And we're doing that. Another thing that we did last fall is we recognized the angst, the frustration and everything. And we were trying to figure out what our intentional programming would be for this year on the on year. So we did a listening tour. We went and we called it the Talk Back Tour, right? And we went to every single county. My colleagues in other states are like, we have 100 counties, but we have 24, and it was a lot. But we went to every single county. We held a listening session. And everybody talked back, and we were able to come back with some facts, right? When it was appropriate, we did come back and say, actually, that's not true in certain places. And it was very eye-opening for us to understand the information that voters are getting. And I'll just say, for an example, and what was eye-opening for me is in Western Maryland, when they had those horrible floods and the Trump administration did not provide funding. There's a lot of misinformation swirling around Western Maryland because they just don't have access to the same news outlets. And the misinformation swirling around social media was that Wes Moore didn't give them their money, when in fact, Wes Moore found money in the budget to give them after the Trump administration did not give them money. So that is information. Another part of our job is to go around the state, is to listen to our local central committees and bring what we hear back to our elected officials, right? And it's like, you guys are doing incredible work, but these people don't know. What can we do to help? And they're upset about this. We're bringing it back. That's another role that we have played and we stepped into, be those ears to the ground and say, hey, they haven't seen you out here. We think you guys should be out here. And hey, these people are saying we had somebody stop by, would help us get X more people to sign up to even run for office. And those are the types of things that we've been doing as a state party.
The Maryland Dems have thrown full support behind the governor, which most states do in their particular parties. They throw their support behind the incumbent. And what do you want Marylanders to really take away from all the things that he's done? Because he is the Democratic Party in Maryland and the direction of the Democratic Party in Maryland. So what do you want Marylanders to take away from it?
In a state like Maryland, we will always want to make sure that we're showing that people don't look to Maryland traditionally to like they look to Virginia as like a bellwether. Ooh, which way is the country going to go? And those type of ways. But they look to a state like Maryland to shore up that the Democrats are strong, right? And with us having a Democratic governor and Wes Moore and Democrats up and down the ticket, we want to show that the Democrats will continue to come out in droves for our strong leaders. So we do need turnout. We want to have a turnout story. That's what we want to have, right? Is that the state that has lost a record amount of jobs, particularly Black women, lost a record amount of jobs due directly because of the Trump administration's assault on our workforce, is coming out in droves to vote for Democrats. That's what we want. We want to have a turnout story. In 2024, we had a race on our hands, right? Our 2-term Republican governor was on the ballot for Senate. And me and my team, we just put our heads down and we said the country has to be able to depend on Maryland, right? That's what we said, is like, we can't be the upset, right? We have to be the true blue that we are, right? The land of Elijah Cummings, Barbara Mikulski. We have to deliver. And that is what we did in 24. And that's what we want to continue to do in 26.
You are a strategist. When you're looking at the Democratic Party here in Maryland and beyond, do you think that the Democrats are doing the right thing as far as how they are engaging voters and how they are getting voters out, or are there trends that you're seeing that you're like, well, maybe we shouldn't necessarily do it this way? Maybe that's not the issue we should focus on, because that was a big part of 2024 when we looked back and it was like, oh, the reason why a lot of people thought for Vice President Harris, it was the issue of Gaza. But when they looked at the numbers, that really wasn't it. So is there a trend that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think as strategists, as practitioners in any field, we have to continue to re-examine, right? We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again as the world evolves, as technology evolves, and expect the same results, right? That is a part of our job, right? As the executive director for the state party, I am constantly being contacted by different vendors that have this tool, that have that tool. And have you thought about doing it this way? And have you thought about doing it that way? And I'm really proud that we were able to do a lot of new and creative things in 24 that we are looking to continue to do in 26. And we have a leader like Wes Moore, who is not a politician who has been campaigning since the 90s. And this has always worked for me. So I'm going to continue doing it this way. We have somebody that's new and sees the value in working with influencers and getting out there in different spaces. So, and that's the kind of party that he's invested in, that for us to do new things and inventive things. And that kind of brings me to, I just got off a call actually with a vendor, and that brings me to something that we are very proud to be working on. Other state parties around the country, they have state conventions. Not every state party, but a lot of state parties have state conventions that they do some of them do it every year, right? Where they get delegates and they vote on platforms and all of these things that they pull together. And my colleagues from around the country, shout out to them for pulling that off every year. Yeah. But the Maryland Democratic Party has never done anything like that before. And I looked at my team and I said, maybe we should try to do some type of a statewide convening of our Democrats across the state. And that was something that we also heard on our talk back to our listening tours. Are you guys going to bring us all together and everything? Because something that we recognized and something that we heard was that people are tuned in a way that they haven't been before, and they're looking for ways to fight back, right? From the accountant who lost their federal job and they're like, what can I do? What can I bring to the fight? What can I do in my community? I'm angry. What can I do? We came together and we decided that we're going to have a Fight Back and Win summit in Gala. So later this month, on June 27th, we are going to be at Maryland Live. And we're going to be pulling together strategists, practitioners from all around the country, some that have strong roots in Maryland who have gone on to work in Georgia and other places, to come back and teach us about messaging, about how to use social media, about how to fundraise, about how to advocate and lobby, about how to reach out to diverse communities, about how to rebuild our core coalition of labor, Black women, and the Democratic Party. And then we're also having vendors have tables to actually talk about this new tool that we have, this new ad buying platform, this new thing that we have to help make campaigns easier and to help get more people like a Wes Moore who haven't been campaigning and in elections for years and years off the sidelines and into the game. So we're really excited about that. And it's going to be, like I said, on June 27th at Maryland Live. Our numbers are climbing for the summit. So if anybody is interested in coming, they should get a ticket now. Go to mdpsummit.com. And we're really excited because we're for our lunch and learn main stage that we're going to have influencers, social media influencers, a panel, because what we have recognized is that we got to meet people where they are, right? People aren't just the days of huddling around and watching the Sunday show to get your news and just watching outlets like CNN and MSNBC and just that being or even the newspaper, right? Those days are dwindling, right? There are people, obviously, I'm one of those people that still watch those networks because I'm in the weeds on this, but a lot of people are getting their news from Instagram, TikTok, from these influencers that are like, here, let me break it down for y'all. And we've done a lot of that too on our social media. So we are bringing those people to the main stage for our summit to talk about the politics, talk about what they see and how they're receiving the information and how we can all, as a democratic ecosystem, use social media to our benefit more. Because here's the thing, I sat through, and this was before I came to the party, I sat through a presentation that the DNC gave to the Women's Caucus about how the Republicans and these conservative women are using social media. And how we were behind the 8 ball. And it was so eye-opening because that's not on my algorithm, right? I'm not seeing that, but it was very eye-opening because people are seeing it, right? And so we're bringing that to the main stage. And then we're closing out the evening with our annual gala where we're going to have President Biden join us for that.
Yeah, and I do want to say that I've seen you guys a lot more on social media, and I think as a whole, the Democratic Party is understanding how to utilize social media. We have a lot of listeners that are Gen Z and millennials, and they often get ignored because the theory is they won't come out. Like, they're not as engaged. So people don't try to reach those voters, like hardly at all. And I think that the Democratic Party is definitely making that shift as they move forward. So I do want to say that I've noticed that. I have noticed that. But when this chapter of the voting rights era is written, what do you want people to say about Maryland? Because we've seen, like in Georgia, record numbers during their primary, record numbers. They came out and they're really trying to make an impact. We've seen them kind of be a swing state where they've flipped from pretty much red to blue. Where do you want the Maryland Democrats to stand in this when we look back on the fight in voting rights?
I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm the executive director and a staffer, and I don't want to get ahead of any of our elected officials and what they would say here. But if you're asking Karen Darks as my legacy and the executive director of the state party, I would want the story to be that Maryland held the line. There were attacks against us. We had a competitive race in the 6th congressional district in 24 that kind of crept up and became competitive. And the state party invested in a huge way in that race to make sure we did not lose a congressional seat. We did not lose a Senate seat. We held the line, right? And at the end of the day, at the end of 2026, that's what we want the story to be too. We held the line and we turned out more African Americans, more young people, more veterans. We were able to have a true turnout story after being in the direct line of fire of this president and this administration.
For sure. And there's still the 5th congressional district, I think the 6th, like there's a lot of really like tight races and things that are going on. So you mentioned your website. If people want to get, they want more information,
they want to get involved? You mentioned the gala at the end of the month. Can we get that information again? Can we get your social media handles so that people know exactly where to follow you and support?
Yes. First, I will just say our website, mdpsummit.com, has everything you need about our summit and gala on June 27th. And I can't stress enough that summit, our team works really hard to curate this for you. We have you in mind. We listened and we applied it, and it will be an amazing day. And it's a post-primary, and there's an opportunity for us all to come together as Democrats, no matter who won, who lost, and focus on how we're going to fight back and win in 2026. So I'll say that. And then our website is mddems.org, and our social media handles are at mddems across the board.
Awesome. So make sure you follow and support. I hope this gave some clarity to everyone in Maryland and outside of Maryland of what local organizations do, so that you know when you are reaching out and you're asking the right questions and you're not asking them to overstep, and you understand where their line actually is. I want to thank you so much, because I know we are busy. When I said that I promised the 23rd and you guys are here, I absolutely appreciate everything that you do and you taking your time to come by here. So thank you, and you can come back anytime. Once we see what happens and how this all plays out, please feel free to come back anytime.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And make sure you guys to like, follow them, and subscribe to what they have going on. And
our vidcast is Burn the Talking Points. So you can find that on YouTube and any platform where you listen to podcasts, Burn the Talking Points.
Awesome. Yes, please listen. I love the podcast, by the way. Please listen to that podcast. It's very informative. They talk to people right here in Maryland. So if you're unaware, you're like, I don't know who's voting and what they're doing and what they said, please listen to the podcast. It will help you better understand all the things going on in Maryland. Again, everybody listening out there, please make sure you come back and listen to another episode of We Vote Too. We appreciate you listening. Thanks.